with first boiling water.
Hi.
Our opening, our opening question was that the Kayadua al-pi Kabbalat HaKadmonim. It's a very ancient Kabbalah that these weeks of Shovavim, Shemos Ve'era Bo, B'Shach Yisrael, Mishpatim, are Mesugel for Tshuva, Bechlal, but Bifrat for Tikkun Abris. I don't know how you're going to explain that in English, okay, but that's your job, so we want to know, what's the kesher, between these weeks and Tshuva Bechlal and Tikkun Abris Bifrat. That was our first question. So now our next question was in the very first Rashi in this week's parsha. So Rashi, goes on, El Shemos Beis Abayim Mitzrayim. So Rashi says, Al pi shemanim b'chayim b'shmosam, even though they're already counted by name, in Parshas Vayigash, there's a whole detailed list of who went down to Mitzrayim. Chazor menam b'misasan, they're once again counted when they're dead. Yeah, lo dir chibas and shivshu chacham, they're so dear, they're like stars. Shem motzia machisam b'mispar. Ubeshemos, and Hashem brings them out and takes them out and brings them in by number and by name. Shenemar hamotzi b'mispar tzvam v'kulam b'shem yikra. He brings them out by number, and to all of them a name he calls. Okay, so we had a few kashas on this. So first of all, why is there not a rehash of the whole list of Parshas Vayigash? There's over here a tremendous incongruence between the name and number. The names are only the names of the Shvatim. Reuben, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, Zebulun, Binyamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Vash, Vei, Kol Nefesh, Yotzei, Yaakov, Yeshivim Nafesh. All of them together were 70, but you only give 12 names, right? So it should be, Mamashal. If it's supposed to, by number and by name, so give us, all the 69 names that were mentioned in Parshas Vayigash, right? Now, Lamasa afterwards, we're actually medayik in Rashi, that Rashi is well aware of this problem. And it's very, but he doesn't answer it. But it is clear, if you're medayik Hetev in Rashi, he was very aware of the problem. And Mamash, it's beautiful, the diuk. Listen to the Lashon of Rashi. Al pi shemanam b'chayim b'shmosam. When they were alive, he counted them by their name. By name, Parshas Vayigash. Chazar umanam b'zar. He counted them in their death. Now, it doesn't say by name. Chazar umanam. It said umanam b'chayim b'shmosam. When they were alive, they were counted by name. So chazar umanam b'misasim. Just counted again in their death. Right? Right? And to say that they're dear like the stars. Now, which pasuk does Rashi bring? That stars have number and name. A pasuk from Yeshayahu. Hamotzi b'mispar tzvam l'kulam shegar. He brings out, by number their multitudes. To all of them, a name he calls. Right? Now, this in contrast to a more well-known pasuk, because it's in Psukei de Zimra, it's until that we say Psukei de Zimra every single day, if you get to shul on time, right? Mone mispar la kochavim lekulam Shemos yikra. Right? He got counts a number to stars, and all of them he gives names. Right? Now Rashi didn't bring that pasuk in Tehillim, which also illustrates that stars have a number and name. Mar mispar kulam Shemos yikra. He brought this pasuk in Yeshayahu, right? Hamotzi b'mispar tzvam lekulam b'shem yikra that one could read the pasuk as saying that the stars have their the number, which is in the billions, and all of them he calls Einon. One can read the pasuk Lashon that Kulam b'Shem Yikra Lashon Yachid as if all the stars are called one name, right? Which again, fits with the incongruence over here between. There's an incongruence between number and name. So it's like Shivim Nefesh, but only 12 names. And Rashi brought a parallel pasuk by the stars. Motzi b'misper tzom l'kulam b'shem yikra. Could be like billion. The number is billions, but only one name. Right? But we've just seen that we're medayik that Rashi's aware of the problem. That's why he says what he says and brings the pasuk that he brings. Right? But we haven't chapped yet the omek ha'inyan of when you have a name per number, or when you have a much bigger number than name, which is something that we will attempt to be mavir. But then there's the more simple and obvious question over here. Bnei Yisrael like the stars, right? Bnei Yisrael like the stars. What is the common denominator between Klal Yisrael and the stars? Dear to HaKadosh Baruch Hu like the stars, which have, as aforementioned, number and name. So also Klal Yisrael has to have number and name. So now going in the order of the parsha, when Moshe Rabbeinu has this encounter, first encounter with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, at the Sneh, right? So there's, so the Baruch Hu gets, pretty much, gets to the point, that I'm sending you, I'm sending you to save Klal Yisrael, right? So, who Hashem is pretty obvious. He introduced himself already at the beginning, right? Anochi Elokei Avicha, Elokei Avram, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov. He introduced himself. I'm the God of your forefathers, right? Right? Yeah. And it's very sad, and the agenda is very clear, to come and save Klal Yisrael. So now Moshe Rabbeinu asks something very, very peculiar. He says like this: "Ve'omer Moshe Elokim, Hinei Anochi ba el bnei Yisrael, v'amarti lehem Elokei avotechem shalchani aleichem." I'm going to come and tell them that the God of your forefathers sent me. V'omru li ma shmoi ma oymar lahem. They ask me what's his name. What should I tell them? And then Moshe Rabbeinu says, "Ekeh asher ekeh." Right. Right. So, right, who cares? Right, right. If you're a slave, or you're a hostage. Let's say a hostage, waiting to be liberated. Right. All right. So a bunch of Marines break into we're being held hostage, and say, okay, all right, we're here to save. We're American. We're American soldiers. We're here to liberate you. You're not going to say, wait a minute, I'm not going with you guys till you guys tell me your names. Right? Right? It's clear, it's Elokei avosechem, shlochani aleichem. Right? Like, the Rebbe Shalom is, the God of the forefathers. Right? Right? So you're dealing with, a friendly force. Right? Friendly force. He's come to save you. Ma shmo. They ask me, what's his name? What am I going to tell him? Who cares? Who needs a name? He's the God of the forefathers, come to save you. So what's the whole thing? Mashmo, Ma'u Marlahan. Why was it necessary? Why would Bnei Yisrael care? Bishlo Moshe has an intellectual curiosity, right? To know the divine names. Like, why is he worried that Klal Yisrael is going to ask him what's his name? Why is he worried about that? Right? Now, equally, puzzling is Paro's response. Right? Anyway, Moshe Rabbeinu comes to Paro. Right? After Moshe Rabbeinu first went to Bnei Israel. Then he went to Paro, V'achar bo Moshe Rabbeinu Paro, Kol mar Hashem okeso, shlachas abiv v'yachol gli b'midbar. He said, listen, God, the Lord of Israel, nothing too hard to understand. God, the Lord of Israel, has sent me, has sent you to say, send my people to, to worship me in the Midbar, celebrate with me in the Midbar, everyone, sacrifice to me in the Midbar. Vayomer Paro, Mi Hashem asher eshma b'kolo, l'shachas Yisrael, lo yadati et Hashem, v'gam Yisrael lo ashalech. Right? Who's Hashem? That I should listen to him. I don't know Hashem. Right? So, right? And so therefore, Klai, so I'm not going to send out either. Right? Now, I'm taking the pasuk at face value, right? Because so does Onkelos. Like, you might think, like, I guess most people don't find this difficult because they assume that Paro is speaking in the same lingo that we speak in. Who are you to tell me what to do? Right? Which it's not like that. Right, but that's not what Paro is saying. Paro is saying, I never heard of Hashem. I never heard of Hashem, so I'm not listening. And that's mamash the lost how Onkelos teach the pasuk. Right? The teach of Onkelos is V'amar Paro, Shema Hashem lo itgalili, it was not revealed to me. Okay? The Kabbalah memory that I should now accept his words. The Shach Esot to send. So lo itgalili Shema Hashem. The name of Hashem has not been revealed to me. Okay? V'af yat Yisrael Hashem, and therefore I will not send Klal Yisrael. Right. So taking this in the most literal way, Paro saying, I never heard of the guy, so I'm not sending him. I'm not sending Klal Yisrael. If you get an anonymous threat letter, right? Just because you don't know who's behind the threat doesn't mean you shouldn't feel threatened. Adarabba. If you say, I know Hashem and I'm not scared of him because I know who he is, Bishlama, Adarabba. Because you don't know what you're up against, and you should, Adarabba, you should be, you should be more scared. Ech shelo yeh, not having heard of Hashem, right, is not a basis to say, no, I'm not listening, I'm not complying. Not having heard is, is if anything, you should be more scared, but certainly not a reason to say to Adarabba. Say, I know the guy and I know what he's capable of, and I'm not scared of him. That's all. Say, I never heard of him. So I never heard of him.
Couldn't what's behind it? Pashtus is that Klal Yisrael is trying to make an excuse to get out of the sevel that they're in. So people get desperate, and they take desperate measures. So they came up with this idea. I'm just saying, maybe that's what Paro's attitude was. The Rav is emphasizing
Lo yadati et Hashem. Lo yadati Hashem. I do not know Hashem.
It says in Chumash Hashem Hey Shin Mem, and it says Yud Kei Vav Kei.
Yud Kei Vav Kei, which Onkelos touches Shmod Hashem.
Ah.
The name of God I do not know. Right?
I remember from Midrash, there's a Midrash that says that his Chozim said that they had all the names of all the Avodah Zarah, and wasn't on the list.
Right.
That name wasn't on the list.
Well, yeah, okay, to explain better why, like, he had such a, as we say, lo hizizlo, didn't move him. Right. To understand all this is to understand the, how we would teach, the hevdel mahuti between the era of Yetzias Mitzrayim and the era that preceded Yetziat Mitzrayim, which is inclusive of the era of the Avos. The other era of the Avos, the whole era of pre-Yetzias Mitzrayim, which includes the time of the Avos, as opposed to the era of Yetzias Mitzrayim. Which this shiur is actually, we're going to go even deeper into these ideas next week when Hashem Himself outlines the difference. Says, "Va'era Avrami Tzavakov Bekel Shakai Ushmi Havaya Lo Nodati Lahem." But for our purposes for this week, right? Understanding the Hevdel Mahuti between pre-Yitzias Mitzrayim and post-Yitzias Mitzrayim, which will give us insight and will develop over the next few weeks, or next week also, of why Hashem did not give the Torah to the Avos. He gave it to Klal Yisrael. Right? Or Matan Torah was not to the Avos. It was, Matan Torah is a part of this era, the Yetzias Mitzrayim era. Right? So now, to understand all this, so as the Rambam points out in the Moreh Nevuchim, take a look at history itself. Here, Moshe Rabbeinu is being sent with a message to Bnei Yisrael and Lahavdil, a message to Paro. When was the time, the last time before this, that a Navi was sent with a message to anybody? Answer is never. Never. You look, we're going with, the strict Pasha Pshat and Chumash, right? You will not find in the whole Sefer Bereshis that HaKadosh Baruch Hu ever sent a Navi to tell anybody anything. An amazing thing, right? 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 Even though there were prophecies, but prophecies were private affairs between the prophet and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu never sent a Navi to say something in his name, as in Ko Amar Hashem. So whether it's how Adam Rishon was a Navi, right? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded him 6 mitzvahs, right? He didn't say to Adam Rishon, I want you to say over to your children in my name these 6. You're commanded 6 mitzvahs, So Adam Rishon, taught those 6 mitzvahs to his kids as chokhmah, right? Even Noach, right? Noach, was the prophet of doom, supposedly, with the Mabul. It's amazing. Rebbe Shem didn't send him to tell the people that there's going to be a Mabul. What did Rebbe Shem command him to do? Build a teva, right? And when people ask you, what's this thing that's blocking my driveway, right? So you tell them, Rebbe Shem's going to bring a Mabul. But it was not sent to tell the people in the name of Hashem that there's going to be a Mabul. Right? Hashem revealed it to Noach, and Noach did not say it over b'shem Hashem. He didn't even have to say it over. He just had to build the teva to attract attention, and we told him mitzad chokhmah. Shem and Aver, same thing, right? And the Rambam is, in a different parak, another parak, more is medaikit from what Chazal say throughout. Whenever they refer to Shem and Aver, they call them base midrashay shel Shem. Right? It was a base medrash. They taught chokhmah. They didn't give nevuah. Right? They didn't give over prophecies to the people in the name of Hashem. So it could be that their chachma was divinely inspired. Maybe you shouldn't use that term because it sounds too reform. But no, reform, they call it Torah, divinely inspired. Yeah, right. Whatever. But I'm just saying, it could be that their chachma was beruach hakodesh, but they gave it over as chachma. They didn't give it over as a message from Hashem to the people. And that's the same thing with Avraham Avinu, who was a big navi, right? And he just was mitvakech with people. He argued with people, and then he approached people mitzara svara. So now there's two interesting things from first of all, we mentioned the Rambam. This is the Rambam's own answer to a problem that he has. The Rambam writes this in Hilchos Yesodei HaTorah, as well as Hakdama to Pirush HaMishnayos, where he talks about the laws of Nevuah. So Kayadua, the way to check a Navi is if he prophesies something good and it doesn't happen, he's a Navi Sheker. If he prophesies something bad and it doesn't happen, Hashem is Nicham Alara. But he's a Navi Sheker, he prophesied something good and it didn't happen. So Frek the Rambam, a kasha like this. So Yaakov Avinu, Vayir Yaakov Mod Vayetzer Lo, and Chazal say Shema Yigro Machet. Right? So even though he had a promise of Hine Enochi Machu Shmarticha B'chol Asher Telech, right? Shema Yigro Machet. So Frek the Rambam, but he got that promise bin Nevuah. A good Nevuah always happens. So the Rambam answers, nah, that's a Nevuah that God told you to say over. If God told you to tell the people good things are going to happen, so Yiboshem won't allow a Chil Hashem to happen and that the good things shouldn't happen. But if the Navi wasn't commanded to say it over, it doesn't have the halacha of a good Nevuah that has to happen no matter what. That's only a Nevuah that's meant that the Navi was commanded to tell the people. Right? But Nevuahs that are, he's not commanded to give over people. Nevuahs that are private business between the Navi and HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't have this din. So you could have Shema Yigro Machet. Yaakov was not commanded to give this Nevuah over. But what's more glaring from the Psukim is that when Avraham Avinu meets Shem ben Noach, who's a.k.a. Malki Tzedek Melech Shalom. Right? So, V'hu Kohen Lekel Elyon. Right? So, the Torah describes Malki Tzedek was a Kohen Lekel Elyon. Right? A Kohen was a priest that worshipped the God above. So, right, it's Pashup Pshat and Chumash, but the Radziner points out that you see that the tzaddikim of yore referred to HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Kel Elyon, which means the God above. There's no Gilui Elokus in Olam Hazeh. So therefore, all these experiences of Nevuah were actually transcendental experiences that the Navi, as it were, overcame the Hester Panim of Olam Hazeh and had a Gilui, but Olam Hazeh remained a place where HaKadosh Baruch Hu was not revealed. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was the Kel Elyon. Such was the era of the Avos. Now, Mamash, parallel to this, just like there was no Nevuah that was to be sent over to the people, parallel to this idea was the fact that there were no Nisim Gluyim. Go find me in the Chumash. I know Al Pi Medrash there were, but we're going with the Pashup Pshat and Psukim, right? Show me one Nes Nigla that there was. One Nes Nigla that there was. Now, Nigla means Nigla to the people. All right? You have to understand this. Nigla means Nigla to the people, that a person who sees it, right, cannot deny that it's a miracle. Right? Right?
What happened with Avraham Avinu with Kibshan Aish wasn't...
Okay. So again, since we're going first of all with the text of the Chumash, and that's what the Ram stresses. Now, of course, the very fact that it's in Torah Sheba'al Peh, non Torah Shebechsav, is mashma that it was deniable, because it would be, if it was undeniable, it would be Pashat Pshat Chumash. It means the people there had a way of rationalizing it. You know, when I said this shir, you know, a precursor of the shir in Malcha, you know, earlier last week, so one of the people in the crowd asked me, well, what about stone? So I said, well, you know, it's not a nes nigla if the miracle killed you, right? All right, the miracle killed you, right? It's not a nes nigla. Nes nigla is that it had a message, right? Had a message, right? So someone else asked me, but what about Lot's wife? She turned to salt. I said, if not for that fact that the Torah wrote that, no one would have ever known it. Because why turned to salt, right? Because she looked behind. Lot didn't know that she turned to salt because Lot didn't look behind, right? He knew he lost his wife.
So it still stays in the Gedra Prati, you're saying?
Right, right. Nes nigla means that a person observes and learns from it. If the miracle wiped you, either killed you directly, like the Mea Mabul, or like, you know, like the Mea Mabul, or the Ash of Stone, or Lot's wife. If the miracle killed you, right? So that's not called a Nes Nigla. Nes Nigla means it was Nigla for people to see, observe, and learn from. Right? Right? But that changed in this week's parasha. And mamish, perfect parallel. A perfect parallel. Right? Just like Moshe Rabbeinu is now sent on a mission to say things in the name of Hashem, he is also given nisim gluyim to perform. Turn the staff into a snake and turn it back. Right, with the hand, with the water to turn it to blood. It's the first time in history, and these two things happen together: Nisim Gluyim and Gilui Nevuah. Whereas Nevuah was before at Behester, that Nevuah was a private business to those individuals that had a transcendental experience. Right. Now Nevuah is out in the public. Nevuah is shared with the people. And mamash paraltat, there's nisim niglim, common denominator of the two being gilui elokus, the revelation of divinity. So now, beli safek, right? The revelation of divinity is the correct state for the world to be in. It's called the world being fully developed when there's Gilu Elokus. Right? There's no question the world is less perfect, and not just less perfect, but even incomplete without Gilu Elokus. And I want to now further get into this relationship of what the world was before Yetzias Mitzrayim, as opposed to what the world became, to more discuss, be magdir, the incomplete state, as opposed to the complete state, which is nitgaleh with Yetzias Mitzrayim. And this al pi a medrash in Bereshis Rabbah, right? That the medrash over there darshans the 5 times that Or is mentioned by Brias Or, connected the Chamisha Chumshei Torah. Yehi Or is Sefer Bereshis, Vayihi Or is Shemos, Vayarokim is Or Kitovs Vayikra, Vayaltukim Ben Or Ben Achoshech is Bamidbar, Vayikra Kim Or Yom Devarim. Right. So says the medrash like this: Yehi Or Zeh Sefer Bereshis Shebo Hit Aseka Kodesh Baruch Hu Ubora Oilamai. Let there be light is Sefer Bereshis, by which HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Sefer Bereshis, he created his world. Vayihi Or, and there was light, right? And there was light, right? That's Sefer Shemos, Shebo Yotzu Yisrael Me'afela Le'or Gadol. Right, so that Sefer Shemos went from darkness to light. It's an amazing model that's being set up over here in the Medrash of the era of Sefer Bereshis as opposed to the era of Sefer Shemos. Dvarim nifloim ma'od, to be medayik over here. So first of all, Yihi or let there be light, that's potential. Vayihi or and there was light, that's actual. That's actual. It's like potential versus actual. Right? And so now let's say the Shemos side of the equation is mamish, very clear. Vayihi or and there was light. That's Sefer Shemos. So Yotzu me'afel or they went from darkness to light. So that's actual. That's coming into actual being. Actual being. But what still needs explanation, right, or further analysis, I should say, is the first part of the Medrash. Yehi or let there be light is Sefer Bereshis Shebo hitasek HaKadosh Baruch Hu ubara olamo. Let there be light is Sefer Bereshis that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was, created the world. Sefer Bereshis with which Hashem created the world. That's the Lashon Medrash. Shebo hitasek HaKadosh Baruch Hu ubara olamo. Right? So there, further elucidation is required. Right? First of all, in the simple Pashut Pshat, what do you mean Shebo Yitasek HaKadosh Hu Bara Olamo? Sachakol, the first Aliyah of Bereshis, Rishon of Bereshis is the story of Brias Olam. From Sheni and Bereshis until the end of Sefer is talking about a fully developed world. Sheni is the story of what happened in Garden of Eden with the Nachash and dust. First the creation of Chava. Okay, So let's say from Shlishi onwards, it's all events that happen in a fully formed world. So what do you call the whole Sefer? Shebo Yitasek HaKadosh Baruch Hu Bara Olamai. You call it, the whole book is called that. Wait a minute, it's the first aliyah, first two aliyahs, v'zo. Right? Right, but number two, why is Brias Ha'olam called potential? Seemingly that's actual. It's created. But it's all like Yihi or let there be light. It's like Brias Ha'olam is all called like let there be light, but not that there is light. That's Sefer Shemos. Right? So the Indian is like this. Right? The difference between Tohu and Tikkun. Right? Right? Shapelessness and formlessness, right? As opposed to something being in its proper shape, right? Is not is not what you think. It's not what you think that it's just stam this mamish it's crude versus fully formed. Because if that's the case, the world went from crude to being, having a nice surah, like we said in the first two aliyahs of Sefer Bereshis. But the Gemara says in Sanhedrin, Shita alfishnin have alma alpayim tohu, alpayim Torah v'alpayim Mashiach. Right, of the 6,000 years of Olam Hazeh, 2,000 years of it are called tohu. Now that 2,000 years is basically the whole era of Sefer Bereshis. Right, it's basically the whole era of Sefer Bereshis. Most of it. It's Yesod happens in the year 2,400, something like that. So basically, the year those 2,000 years is roughly rove the era of Sefer Bereshis. That whole era is called Tohu. Right. So we have to think a little bit more abstractly when we talk about tohu as opposed to tikkun. That it's not it's not as crude as tohu is not as crude as you think it is. Right. Right. Tohu. Right. The Ramchal writes in the Das Tunas. Right. Olam HaTohu. Olam HaTohu could have a tremendous amount of shape and color and order to it. what's missing from the tohu is the unifying goal, because you know as the Ramchal writes over there, you know, in tohu you could have still higher things and lower things. You know what tohu is? The law of the jungle. In the law of the jungle, there's order. There's a very definite food chain, right? From top to bottom, who eats who, right? But like we like calling a jungle, it's law of the jungle. That's like ki'ilu chaos, right? Because even though there's a definite food chain, there's a definite order, right? But there's no unifying cause, and the tsura that's attained by how things revolve and interface relative and around the unifying cause. That's the proper tsura. That's tikkun. Everything finds its true place in reality. Its true place in reality, right? Vis-a-vis how it fits with the unifying goal. And that's the proper tsura. You could have all the koiches fully formed. You can have all the koiches fully formed, right? But without the unifying goal around which the koiches have to revolve and serve, so it's called that you're still mechusar tsura. It's still crude because the real tsura metukenet has not emerged. So even within tohu there could be higher and lower, more refined and less refined, but it's still called tohu, in the law of the jungle type world, which is basically our whole world also. We're not better than the jungle, In politics, who eats who? It's all a big food chain. In the business world also, it's one big food chain, right? Right? The beauty that is yet to emerge, and fully, it started emerging with Yitzias Shamayim, is that the higher goal around which all the koiches arrange themselves, that's the tzura. That's the proper tzura of the world. How everything interfaces with the overriding goal, the higher cause. And how everything will therefore interface with that cause and interface with each other as a result of interfacing with that cause. That's called tikkun. In the whole inyan of Sefer Bereshis, right, where there's no Gilui Elokus in the world, but there is the expansion of civilization. So what's happening in Sefer Bereshis is that all the different koiches of be it nature, which was created in 6 days, but be it of the different nations of the world, all the koiches are being put into place. And the avos are no exception to this. The ikar accomplishment of the avos that was Ladairis, the ikar accomplishment of the avos was to shtel the midas of Klal Yisrael, the koiches that make Klal Yisrael. Rachmanim, Baishonim, Gomei Chasadim, which is besod Yaakov, Yitzchak, and Avram. Rachmanis is Yaakov, right? Baishonim, Busha is Yitzchak, from the midah of Yira. And Gomei Chasadim, that's Avram. Chesed Gvur Tiferes, right? Chesed Din Rachamim. The Ikar Avod of the Avos, meaning their lasting legacy. Now, don't get me wrong. Avram Avinu did try to change the world, like we said in our shiurim on Parshas Lech Lecha or Noach, I don't remember, right? Avram Avinu did try to change the world, but you see, it wasn't his Ikar mission. Hello. אני עכשיו עובד עם יולד, ואחרי זה אני צריך ללכת ללרנה, אבל אני יכול להסיע אותך בעוד רבע שעה. אז אולי אמא רוצה להסיע אותך. אוקיי, אז תחכה. זה למה אמרתי לך להשאיר את התפילין. אז זה למה אמרתי לך להשאיר את התפילין בבית, צריך להסיע אותך מחר. אני אעשה, אבל אני באמצע משהו. Okay? Sorry about that. right? Right. So even though Avraham Avinu tried to change the world, like we spoke, so like the Rambam says in the Sefer Mitzvahs, in Mitzvah Gimel, Avas Hashem, anyone who loves Hashem will be like Avraham Avinu and tell everyone to love. You love someone, you want everyone to love him also. So of course that's mitzvah that Avraham Avinu was an Oyev Hashem. He tried to change the world. But as the Rambam writes in Hilchos Avodah Zarah, everyone they preached to dumped it. The Nefesh HaShavam burnt out, and almost everything, all the philosophy they taught was almost totally forgotten, even from Klal Yisrael, until Hashem had mercy on us and at the last moment sent Moshe Rabbeinu. The Ikar Avoda of the Avos, even though they tried to do everything that they can, but their Ikar Avoda was also to be Koveya, the Midas of Klal Yisrael. Just like the whole story of Seit Bereshit is every nation emerging, all the different koiches of the Bria are emerging. So even if they're not emerging, yesh me'ayin, right? But still, the whole Seit Bereshit is called Shebo Hit Asik HaKadosh Baruch Hu Bara Olamo, that the end of Seit Bereshit is all the koiches coming into being. Whereas the kochos hateva, the kochos of the different umais, the kochos of Klal Yisrael. The kochos of Klal Yisrael. All the kochos are coming into being. Right? But we do not yet have the unifying goal, right? That all these kochos are supposed to serve. And all that, and this matzav is called potential as opposed to actual. And we said, lemazeh doma in the micro, in the formation of a human being himself. Right? The Gemara Nida says that at the time of conception, there's a malach, that Lila Shemo, his name is Lila, and he takes the tipa in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and says, what's going to be with this tipa? He's going to be a chacham or a tipish. He's going to be a gibor, he's going to be a cholosh. All the different koiches are kavua at the time of conception. But says the Gemara with one exception. Tzaddik or Rasha is not determined, because he has Bechira. So there's an amazing vort over here. Right? Now, there's an amazing vort that that what's being said is that at the time of conception you get all the koiches, but that's all potential. Actual is how you use it, right? And that's tzaddik v'rasha. On what basis are you a tzaddik or rasha? What you did with your koiches. You did good, you're a tzaddik. You did bad, you're a rasha. So tzidkus and rishus is actual. All the other things are bekoyach as opposed to bepo. Sefer Bereshis is to set up all the koiches of the Bria, right, including the koiches of Klal. So the avod of the Avos was not to change the world, even though they may have tried. But their ikra avoda was to be kovea, the koiches of the Am that will change the world when the time comes. To be kovea, the koiches of Am Yisrael. And we al-pi this we touch, the word, you understand the avod of the Avos. What's called Maisa Avos Siman Laban, right? As we know, many things that happened to the Avos were precursors of what happened to Klal Yisrael. So you ask, what the heck is that? That the Avos had to have miserable lives because they had to have lives parallel to all the stuff that we're going to have to go through. No, because Maisa Avos Siman Labanim, that statement actually says it all. Explains what the avod of the Avos was. So first of all, Maisa Avos, Maisa is what's Kovea Midas, right? Like all the Sifrei Musar say, the Rambam amongst them, how are you Kovea Midah? By repeating a Maisa over and over again. We also brought the Mishnah in Avos. The Mishnah Avos says that a person whose Masav is Merubin Mechachmaso, Lemau Dome, to an Elon that's Shorosh of Merubin, Va'anaf of Mu'atim, Maisim are called Shorish. The Maisa Avos is our shirish. The Avos were being koveya our roots, our koiches. Right? And that's siman labonim. What's a siman in halacha? We find simanim in at least two instances, two main instances, but there are probably more, that either to identify a corpse, simanim, or to return a lost object. The purpose of simanim is identification, right? That's why everything could find its identity or find its owner. Maisa Avos Siman Labanim. Because of what the Avos went through, they were Kovea Midas in us that we don't get lost. And it's not a coincidence. There happen to have been three of us, right? And there are three main midas in Klal Yisrael that make us a different nation than all other nations. We're Rachmanim, Baishonim, Gomle, Chasadim. And parallel to these three was that in Mitzrayim, Lo Shinu Shmam, L'Shoinam, Umalbusham. That threeness is connected, the threeness of the others, that they were kover the midas of Klal Yisrael. The siman that Klal Yisrael is misuman. Well, that's a pshat that they say on the sifrei that's brought in the Haggadah. Melabichu b'nei Yisrael mitzuyim sham, mitzuyonim sham, miloshin tzion. They have a tziyun. They have they're distinct. They have simonim. Right, and that's the avod of the ovis. The avod of the ovis is to be koveya the midas of Klal Yisrael, right? The koiches of Klal Yisrael, right? And that's the whole ian of Sefer Bereshis, is to be koveya the koiches. But now the nekuda of the goal that the midas are meant to, the koiches are supposed to serve. That's Sefer Shemos. So now, we spoke about this, a great deal in the Shir on Parshas Miketz, right? That the goal is called the Shem. I say like Lishma, L'Shem Shemayim. Sefer Shemos is, where the Bria goes from potential to actual. We said potential to actual is what do you do with the koiches, which is, like we said, from that Gemara Nida, Tzadik or Rosh is the actual. What do you do with the koiches? To what purpose did the koiches serve? But the purpose wasn't mitgaleh yet. And that's what's being mitgaleh with Yitzias Mitzrayim, right? Is that, the Shem Shemayim is being mitgaleh. And that is what we're going to see throughout the coming weeks, right? Ba'avur zodi mariticha, leman arosas kochi, leman saper shmi b'chol haaretz, right? Hashem says to Paro, the only reason why I let you survive is to show off my power, and leman saper shmi b'chol haaretz, right? That's why he had to do so many makas, leman saper shmi, right? To be megala shem shamayim. And that's the whole avodah. The Ramban really writes this in his Hakdamah to Sefer Shemos, that this book is all about being Megala Shem Shamayim, and that culminates with the Mikdash, all the Nisim Gluyim, and then Matan Torah. Torah is called Shmo Shakadosh Baruch Hu, and then after that the Mishkan, which is called L'Shakein Shmo Sham. The Shechina is also called Shmo, L'Shakein Shmo Shmam. Koma asher askir shmi. Avoy lecha brechtim. Makom mikdash is called asher askir shmi because there we say the Shem Amfurish, right? The whole tahalich, the whole process of Sefer Shemos is gilui Shem Shemayim on earth, which is really gilui hatachlis, gilui the tachlis that all the koiches are supposed to serve. And that's the difference between potential and actual. That's the difference between tohu versus tikkun. Having the goal that all the koiches serve. Gilui atachlis. Gilui Shem Shemayim. So now first let's start with Paro. And then we'll work our way back to what Moshe's concern for Bnei Yisrael was. Right? So Paro says, Lo yadati et Hashem. Alright, so you have to understand, right? The ikar shlichus of Moshe Rabbeinu to Paro is not the pshat to go threaten him. That's not the pshat. That's not what, right? The ikar pshat is to tell Paro there's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because that's the whole point of Gulas Mitzrayim. Right? Gilui Elokus. So the main thing was not to make Paro scared, But to say to Paro like this, there is a Ribono Shalom. And this Ribono Shalom says to let out the Jewish people. But the yesod of his shlichus is, right? That, right? Kol Omar Hashem Elokei Yisrael. Shlachas Ami v'yachol g'yombar. The main thing is not to threaten him, right? Right? The main thing is there is a Ribono Shalom, and therefore send out the Jewish people. No, we should have started with Klal Yisrael first. All right, whatever. When you arrange the mind, you'll decide how you want to do it. All right? But I'll call upon it. Let's just finish with Paro. So now, the Mashal Ma Davar Daima. If you would go back in a time machine now to 100 years ago, and even take the biggest intellectual, grab the biggest intellectual that you could find of that era, and say to them, time is relative. Theory of relativity, right? He would give you a blank stare, right? You're a big genius, and you wouldn't even have any type of petach to start explaining to him what it is, right? As opposed to you walk over to, any man in the street of our day, any bonehead, and you say the words theory of relativity. He doesn't know what it is befrat, but say Einstein, right? Or physics, right? Right? He won't give you a blank stare. He may not be interested, he may not be able to explain it, but he's not going to give you that type of, total blank stare. Right? Why? Because the idea of theory of relativity, derech mashal, is part of the air that we breathe. It's part of the global consciousness. It's one of these concepts that's floating around the air that people just pick up because it's part of the global consciousness. Right? Whereas if you go back in a time machine, even the biggest intellectuals would just look at you like you're crazy. Right? And like the conversation would go nowhere because the topic is just so alien. Hello? אני באמצע משהו, אני אחזור מיד כשאני יכול. אני לא יכול עכשיו. Yeah. Right? So, you have to say, like we said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu during the era of the Avos was called Kel Elyon, the God that's above. Right? And now Moshe Rabbeinu is introducing him as what? Ko Amar Hashem Elokei Yisrael. He's not Kel Elyon, he's the God of Israel. I mean, he appears in this world, he's Chal, the Shechina Chal, the Jewish people, but for everyone else to see. So that's where Paro says, Lo yadai, I don't know what you're talking about. Paro gives him the blank stare. Look, I don't know what you're saying. Get out of my face. Just like, like you meet this intellectual from 200 years ago and you say theory of relativity, they'll tell you, get lost. Not like, explain it to me, because the concept is totally not part of the global consciousness of that era. And that's what Gilui Elokus was up to that point, right? It was just not part of the global consciousness. The Nevi'im that had Nevuah had it as a transcendental experience. They didn't have it as, as it were, to bring Nevuah into Olam Hazeh. I think the point's clear. But maybe we should have said it from Bnei Yisrael's vantage point first. It would have been easier. So let's go back to Bnei Yisrael. Maybe in the mind we'll put Bnei Yisrael first. So now we understand what Moshe Rabbeinu, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'm going to tell them I'm saving them. They're going to say, Ma Shmai, Ma Omar Lahem. Right? Klal Yisrael want Gilui Elokus. They want the real Geula. They want the Geula of the world, not just a alleviation of their affliction. They want Geulas Eilamin. They want the real Geula that changes the world. So the Mashmo, what is his name? What is going to be the Gilui Elokus? Because all the divine names are connected, all the different divine revelations, all the different things that Hashem reveals. What's the Gilui? Because Kleiso doesn't just want, Kleiso wants the real thing. Kleiso doesn't just want an alleviation of the slavery. They want Gilui Elokus. What's the Gilui? Mashmoi. All the Shemos of HaKadosh Baruch Hu are connected to different Giluyim of what he gets. When he's Megala Din, he's called Elokim. When he's Megala Chesed, he's called Kel. So Mashmo, what's the revelation? So Moshe Rabbeinu says, for the time, tell them Ekia. I'm with them. That's the revelation right now. The Shem Ekia. The Gilui Elokus at this time, will be in the Inyan of how I'm with them. That's going to be, but it's going to be a Gilui Elokus. It's not going to stop and make the slavery be less. I'm going to reveal myself in the world, mitzad the fact that I'm with them. Okay, I'll be with them in this tzara, I'll be with them in all the tzaras. That's going to be the Gilui, for starters. All right, next week it progresses to the Gilui of the Shem Havaya. All right. Now with this we can understand, get another glimpse, at the famous kasha that all the Mephoshim ask on Haggadah, on the famous statement, Ilu lo tzia HaKadosh Baruch Hu Hashem Harei anu vanenu uvnei vanenu mishubadim ayinu l'paro b'Mitzrayim. That all the Mephoshim ask the exact same question, right? Right, they ask, right, well, why would be Meshur the Paro Mitzrayim? The Egyptian empire, collapsed. Right? Who's a slave to Paro b'Mitzrayim Bizman Hazeh? Nobody. There's no Paro b'Mitzrayim. Right? That's the famous kasha all the Mephoshim are bothered by. Why not? The Egyptian empire could have collapsed anyway, as it did. So why would it be Meshur the Paro b'Mitzrayim? But the pshat is like this. The way we want to read is that if the Gula would have not been Aidei HaKadosh Baruch Hu Bechvodo Ba'atzmo, like the Haggadah says elsewhere, Ani velo Malach, Ani velo Saraf, Ani Hashem, Ani velo Acher, HaKadosh Hu Bechvodo Ba'atzmo, right? If it not that the Yitzhak was Begilui Elokus, if not for the fact that the Gilui, so then the Bria would be in the same matzav as in the era of Paro b'Mitzrayim. We would still be in the Beis Alofim Tohu, and it stresses Ilu Lo Tzia HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? If not that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they did it by Aidei himself, Bechvodo Ba'atzmo, Aidei Gilui Elokus, we would still be in the same matzav. The world would be in the same situation. Even if our overlord would have shifted, but the world would have been in the same matzav as Paro b'Mitzrayim. We said, Paro, the Sforim says, Oisius Oref, the back of the head. There's intelligence, but there's no communication, right? That means, that we wouldn't have any communication with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Things would come down, the Shefa would come down. Just like the Shefa goes down the spinal cord, like it goes down the spinal cord of all animals, but there's no dibur, there's no connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? And that's Mitzrayim, Meitzar Yam, be constraints. Everything would still be in a state of tohu, not fully developed, not in actuality. That's if HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself would have not taken us out of Mitzrayim, the Gula would have not been Aidei Gilui Elokus, the world would have been stuck in the matzav of Beis Alofim Tohu. Oiref, Meitzar Yam. Hello? Ken? לא הערת אותי, אבל באמצע אני לא יכול לדבר. אפשר לעשות את זה מחר? Okay. Fine. Okay. So now getting back to the stars. Right. And number and name. Number and name. So the Ramchal writes in the Derech Hashem that the Bepashtus, at first in Pashup Pshat, like ask what the stars do. So Kaidu is the famous medrash. Right, every grass blade has a star in the heavens that hits on it and tells it to grow. So it explains the Ramchal like this, that the Shefa of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right, is very ruchani. It has to come down and take on a slightly more Gashmi type of form to be parallel to the Gashmi thing that holds into existence. And that transition is done by the stars. As it were, the stars are the gateways to bring down the Shefa, right, from Ruchni to the Gashmi world. And then the way the Shefa comes out of the stars, it's more on par with the Gashmi thing that it's supposed to give chiyus to. So as it were, from the stars bring into physical reality the Shefa from the higher worlds. That's the function of the stars. That's what he writes in the Derech Hashem. But he says it more bifrat in his Sefer Kinas Hashem Tzvakos, right? Discussing the same idea, but on a deeper level, a davar niflamoid, right? He says like this, that kochav is actually a compound word. Chaf vav, chaf beis. What's chaf vav? Chaf vav is the gematria of the Shem Havaya Baruch Hu. Now the Shem Havaya Baruch Hu, Kayadu, is connected to all the Esser spheres. That's why it's one of the reasons why it's called Shem HaMiyuchad, right? The unified name, or the special name, or the Shem HaEtzem. It's connected to the Etzem Hanhaga, Kayadu, the spitz of the Yud. Kutzah is Keser, the Yud is Chachma, the Hey is Bina, and the Vav is the 6 meters of Chesed, Gvor, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yisoid, and the last Hey is Malchus. Kayadu, the system of Esser spheres, which Ramchal himself explains in other places, is the whole machshava of the Bria. As it were, all the thoughts and all the calculations that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is choshev on us and mishayer, how to be manigas. That's the Indian of the Esther spheres, and that's why, by no coincidence, all of humanity, it counts in a base number of 10. Connected the Esther spheres. Spheres is also Lashon Mispar, because as a word, a pure thought is mathematical. When you put thought into words, you're already sort of being megashim it. Pure thought is mathematical. So so there's the Esther spheres, which is like the machshava of the bria, right? And then Chaf Beis is the 22 letters of the Aleph Beis. To put the thought into words, like Vayom Elokim Yehi Or Vayehi Or, that for the Shefa to take on to become Lemaisa, it has to go from thought to words, and that's the Torah speaks about openly about part of the process. Hashem said, and there was. Hashem said, but it wasn't a coincidence that there were Asara Ma'amoris in everybody. All those utterances were 10. The machshava is 10, and then each utterance, draws down from that machshava to make lemaisa. The machshava has to go through dibur to become lemaisa. As it were, there's the machshava of the thing, and then it becomes the name of the thing, and then the thing comes into existence. Right? That's the transition Chachavim do from the Chaf Vav to the Chaf Beis. From the Olamas of Machshava to the Olamas of Dibur, and the Olamas of Dibur are closer to Lemaisa. From Dibur goes to Lemaisa. So as it were, the Kochon moved the Shefa from a parallel transition to going from machshava to dibur, and from dibur it goes to lemaisa. Once you have the name, so then from the shame comes the thing that like he or, then there's or. Right? From the shame comes the zach.
What's the transformation from dibur to maisa parallel to in the in this?
Well, from dibur to maisa doesn't have to go through a. It is indeed a ishtalshlus, but it doesn't have to go through like a portal, like from going from machshava to dibur. That's the portal of the stars. It goes from chaf vav to chaf beis.
That's to dibur, yeah.
And then after that, the dibur, is mishtalshel to lemaisa. I guess it's not as big of a jump to go from the shame to the zach. Like I said, yehi or vayhi or. I mean, it's also.
Okay, it's not the part of what the Rav is trying to say over, but I'm just to put things in perspective. What's the transmitter? We see what the Kohavim do. What's the transformer that brings it down to that next level? How does it go from Hashem's dibur to the creation of the physical thing and stuff? There's a Baal Shem Tov about davar.
Davar, dibur, b'dvar Hashem,
Yeah.
Shemaim, everything's called a davar because
right.
it's b'dvar Hashem. So I'm saying it is a hishtalshelut, but it's not as big of a jump as
Right.
going from machshava to dibur.
Right.
All right, but that's the Indian of. Oh, God. Right. Right. So that is. Right. That's the Indian. Right. That's the Indian of that. That Kochavim have number and name. Number and name connected to Chaf Vav and Chaf Beis. Indian of Spheres and Aleph Beis. That's the Indian that stars have numbers and names. Connected to Chaf Vav and Chaf Beis. Numbers connected to Spheres, the Machshava, and names connected the Dibur. And that's the Chibos of Shalakov because HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as it were, needs the stars to execute His will. I mean, not that He had to have them, but He decided to have them. Now, Klal Yisrael does a very parallel thing. And that's why Klal Yisrael is Nimshul Kochavim. Because all the Shefa that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Mashpia to the Olamas is B'Shvil Yisrael. If there wouldn't be a Klal Yisrael, there would be no Shefa in the world. It's all for Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael also draw down the Shefa from Shamayim to Aretz. That's why Klal Yisrael play a parallel role like the Kochavim. And that's why Klal Yisrael also have number and name. But as the Sforim point out, it's name, we said earlier in this year, and we spoke about this Barichos in the Shir and Parshas Miketz, name is also a synonym for Tachlis. Now, Tachlis, things have their private goals, and then there's things that like every prat has its private goal, special unto it, right? And then there's also encompassing goals. Here, Derech Mashal, every Jew has to do his own, has to worry about Tikkun Nishmato, right? Your private mission, your private nisayon, right? That no one else could do for you, right? But all Klal Yisrael has to work together to make Hashras Hashchina. All Klal Yisrael has to work together to bring Mashiach. So there's like Tachlit Klali and there's Tachlit Prati. Every Nivra has its specific private purpose, but there is certain Tachluyot that encompass. And with this we've resolved that there's no stira in these psukim, whether a star has a name per number or motzi b'spartam lekulam b'shem yikra, detailed names for every number, or a lot of numbers and just one name. Because the pshat is like this: the numbers will always stay the same. because you're always dealing with Esther spheres. The Ribbon Shalom uses his, infinite intelligence, for everything that he does. So that's saying that the numbers never change. The question is how many names, right? The numbers don't change. The question is, how many names are there? Right? That's a davar nifla mode. It's always, the full koach of the Esther spheres in all Maisei Hashem. Any Maisei Hashem, is all Esther spheres, kayedu alam mekubon, because all the Esther spheres are nichlal zeh b'zeh. It's every single thing that Hashem ever does has his full infinite intelligence in it. So the numbers never change. The question is how many names. The pshat is like this. There's different marachot. There's the particular tachlis for every nivra, and then there's the tachlit klali that all the nivraim have to participate in. Right? So that's the duality. The Kochavim always make the transition from number to name. But when we're dealing with that every mitzad, the bechina, everything has a tachlit prati. So a mitzad, that is the pasuk in Tehillim. Moina mispar kochavim lekulam shemos yikra. That we can read the pasuk mamish as many names as there are numbers, and that's connected to the bechina that every star has its blade of grass that it's responsible for. Every tachlit prati. But then there's the tachlit klali of like everything, which the klali is hakol l'shem shamayim, and that's the bechina of this parsha, of this pasuk in Yeshaya. Hamotzi b'mispar tzvam lekulam b'shem yikra. All this numbers, all these machshavas, shchishay machshavas, leval yidam minal nidach, all for the one all-encompassing cause, right? The tachlit klali. Right? And that's exactly what we're dealing with. Right? In this week's parsha. Because this week's parsha is a prelude to Gilu Elokus. Right? So even though, of course, it was Shivim Nefesh, beside, that's also a certain system of thought, it's beside the 70 and the Sanhedrin Agoro, it's beside Shivim Panim Latira, right? It's, as it were, the koch of Machshava is 70. But the Gilui Elokus that there were only 12. And that's what the Medrash says. The Medrash says, not without mentioning the Kasha, but it's very clear this is what the Medrash meant. It says, Al Shem Gu Lasam Nikru Khan. The reason why these 12 names are mentioned are Al Shem, the Geula that happens in course of this Sefer. Reuven, because of Ra'o Ra'isi Oniami. Shimon, Vaishmael Kiris Nakasam. Levi, Sheliva Elam HaKadosh was with us, with in the Tzara. Yehuda Hashem Shehodu LaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? And Yisachar that they got the schar, Bizas Mitzrayim, Bizas Yam. Zvulun that Hashem was mashkin the Shechina in the Mishkan. It's built later in the Sefer, right? Etc. Etc. See the Medrash there. God Al Shem Amon Vu Kazera God. That the 12 names that are mentioned are connected to 12 divine revelations that happened in course of this Sefer. And that's Elish Shemos B'nai Yisrael. These are the Shemos that are going to be revealed in this Sefer. So even though the Machshava is beside Shivim, right? But the Giluyim that are going to come from these Machshavas are going to be 12 major Giluyim. There are going to be 12 major events in this Sefer of Shmos. The 12 major Giluyim that are going to happen in course of the Geula.
So referring to, I mean, there were Eser Makos. What's the what?
Eser Makos, Eser Spheres.
Yeah,
and that's.
Well, I don't understand. We don't have to put this in the article, but what are the 12 Giluyim that the?
So that's what I said. It's a Medrash.
But how do we see that in the Hemshech of this Chumash?
All these 12 things happen in course of the whole.
Oh, I see what you're
From Yitzias Mitzrayim until Binyan HaMishkan. These 12 events happen. 12 events that Hashem is revealed by.
Mm-hmm. Does it have anything to do with the
not a coincidence.
Tres Kochvaya?
No,
is there anything to do with what we say in Haggadah that
No, the 12 Shvatim, not Chadasar Kochvaya. because that's
Oh,
also
because we don't
spring.
call, right, uh-huh.
No, but it's connected to 12 months old. Everything, all the 12 are, of course it's connected,
Okay.
10, 12, it's all connected, all the 10s are connected to the
Now,
Esther
how
series.
does this have to do with what the Rab brought up right at the
Oh, I
beginning
forgot
about?
about Chauvin. Oh, I knew I forgot something.
Yeah,
No,
tshuva, the tshuva
Chauvin,
of Shovavim, and particularly
the bris.
Tikkun Avris, right?
Right. Oh, again, I'll be a show the reporter.
Nope.
Are you okay? Okay, good. No, so again, I knew I forgot something. So in these parshas of Shemos Erabot B'Shach Yisrael B'Shpatim is the Gilui Shem Shemayim that's irreversible and irrevocable. Because the Gilui Shem Shemayim of the Shechina and the Beis Hamikdash, which is Truma Tetzaveh till the end of the Chumash, right? That that's a Tosefet that we weren't zochet to be permanent yet until the Beis Hamikdash Hashlishi. Then by Yom Hashem Echad Ushmo Echad, that the Shem Hashem will be revealed permanently, and the more revealed, right?
But it's up to and not including Binyan Beis Hamikdash?
Oh, so
Truma
only in a
and-
leap year.
Right.
Only in a leap year. So
Truma
explain
and
that.
Tetzaveh
We
is-
explained this. Truma and Tzav is only in a leap year,
Right.
because on that year there's a higher level of tikkun, because beside closing the gap between the sun and the moon. So on that year we're zocha to Truma and Tetzava also, because like a leap year is like me'ain the tikkun of Laslov via Oral Levana Korachama, when we equalize between the sun and the moon. But in a Shana Pshuta, it's only Shovavim.
Right.
Right? Shovavim. And the reason is like this. Right? The Ramchal writes in the Derech Hashem, right? He divides the levels of Gili Elokus into 5 levels. He says the very lowest was pre-Yitzias Mitzrayim, like we said. There was mamash no Gili Elokus. Right? There's no Gili Elokus on earth. The second lowest level is us, says the Ramchal.
What does that mean, us?
Us, our matzav kayom hazeh.
From
He was speaking about his day. It only got worse.
From what, Korban on?
Yes, from Korban Abayis and on. From Korban Abayis and on. Right?
Yeah.
From Korban Abayis and on. Right? Of course, a higher level is when there's a Beis HaMikdash. A higher level is even when there's Nevuah, and the highest level is going to be, Lachar Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi, which will be permanent. How we're going to go to higher and higher levels of Gili Elokus. Right? But the Ramchal writes like this: getting lower than where we are will never happen, because that's the koach of Yitzias Mitzrayim. And he says, Simin Ladavar, just a Simin Ladavar, the Torah is never going to go back to Shemayim. Torah will always stay on earth. That's what he says. The Yitzias Mitzrayim Dika Tikkun is irreversible. The tikkun of having a Beis HaMikdash, unfortunately, has been reversible. We were going to have it, then we lost it. Right? But like as it were, it can never get worse than the matzav of Yitzias Mitzrayim. That's why Yitzias Mitzrayim is such an amazing tikkun that we have to relive it every single year. It's and everything. All the mitzvahs are zecher Yitzias Mitzrayim. Even Shabbos is zecher Yitzias Mitzrayim, because it is the yesod of Gilui Elokus on earth. Without Yitzias Mitzrayim, there wouldn't be Shabbos on earth either. There would be no Gilui Elokus. But says Ramchal, it's irreversible. And he says, Simin Ladavar, we never have to worry about Hashem repossessing the Torah and taking it back to Shemayim. So Yitzias Mitzrayim, which culminate with Matan Torah, after Yitzias Mitzrayim, we start the Omer and we count it, right? And that stretch is Shovavim. Shemos Ve'erabol B'Shalach Yisro Mishpatim. Mishpatim is also a parsha of Matan Torah. The last aliyah of Mishpatim is another version of Matan Torah. With Hatzil B'nei Yisrael, Ve'echsu V'yiru Tzolkei Yisrael, Ve'echsu Tzolkim Ve'ochu V'yishtu. So Shemos Ve'erabol B'Shalach Yisro Mishpatim is like the Gili Elokus that Yitzias Mitzrayim Matan Torah brought, which is irrevocable, irreversible. Right? Right? Truma Tetzaveh is which we're talking about Binyan HaMishkan, which is another level. It's not permanent, so we only have it in a leap year where there's a higher level of tikkun. Right? So I'll call it Shemos which by no spells Shovavim, which means crooked. We straighten out what's crooked because the world was missing Gilui Elokus, and now the world has Gilui Elokus, and the Gilui Elokus that was made in course of this stretch of Parshias is permanent. That's why it's Dafka these Parshias and not more. Because the Madregas that we reached later on, we weren't Zochet to Bekvias. Oh, so the world before there was Gili Elokus was all Levatola. What's called to do something Levatola? What's called to lose your bearings, which is Chet in general. Chet means to miss. The word Chet, like Lahachti, means to miss. You miss when you don't have a clear target. You're missing the goal. So Chet in general is when you miss the goal. Right? And so you miss the goal even when you have the goal. Koshken, if you don't have a goal to aim for Bichlal. But that's the whole Indian of doing something Levatola, even without talking about Zero Levatola per se, but doing anything Levatola. What does it mean Levatola? Purposeless. Without purpose, without goal. The whole world was without Tachlis. Right? Without the Ataki Dasi Yomashi Lishmecha Tachlis Maseh Shemaim Baritz, like we mentioned in Shir Parshas Miketz. The whole world was without Tachlis. The whole world was without Tachlis. Everything was Levatola. The Yesod was not connected. The Yesod of Kol Ma'asecha, the Yesod, which is the meat that gathers all the koiches together, had nothing to aim at. So it's called that the Yesod wasn't connected with the Malchus. Which means the bris wasn't connected. Zera Levatos, with the Yesod, the Aver is not connected to the Malchus, your wife, which is the Matara, the goal. So this is that during these weeks where the universe gets its Tachlis, Nekudata Tachlis. That's the time to do tshuva, because now you have what to aim for. You have your point to return to, and that's why Bifrat, it's the tikkun of tikkun abris, of chasron being doing levatola, because now the nekudas atachas that everything has to be aimed at is revealed. So now it's a time to be metakin that and all the koiches, so kol masecha, all the koiches that were made in Sefer Bereshis, to gather them all together, kol masecha you l'shem shemayim, and that in the odam prati, in the individual is connecting the Yesod with the Malchus, that the Yesod should only be mashpia, the Yesod should only be mashpia, to the Nakuda of Malchus, which is your wife. The meat of Malchus is called Nukva. Okay, but your wife is the meat of Malchus. Right?
Do I have to tell her the end of the story?
What?
Do I have to tell her
She's
the
not
end
a
of the story?
You're the Malchus.
She's Malka too, but I don't know if I have to.
She's not Malchus, she's the Malchus.
I have to remind
the
her
Malchus.
if she remembers.
Yeah.
Okay, very
She's
good.
the Malchus, she's not the Malchus.
Okay. Shkoyach.